I met this guy once in Myrtle Beach. I was just wandering around a bar by myself in Myrtle Beach, and I met this guy, and
Two drunks walk into a bar.
He decided to start talking to me. It's wonder of wonders, I guess. And he told me you can always make it home safe if you have two certs. One to put in your mouth and one to wear in your right eye like a monocle.
I get it. I get it. Coming to you somewhat live from the Beer Whiskey Studios high atop Barley's Tap Room on Washington Street in downtown Greenville, South Carolina. I wanted to stick magnificent or wonderful or stupendous in front of Greenville, but
it's 75 degrees and beautiful, and it was hard to find an adjective.
Yeah, it was. I just couldn't come up. I couldn't come up with it. Plus, we're a little far into the day here, so my brain isn't quite working up to par. Or some people may say it's just exactly the way we would expect you to be operating at this point. Anyhow, welcome to this episode of Big John and Five. I'm Russ Heaps, and this is where I get my good buddy, Big John Richards, to pick a beer from one of Barley's 72 taps, 50, 60 cans and bottles. We sniff it, we sip it, we kibitz about it. Sometimes John tells us some background about the brewery. Sometimes we get a little brewing history, and we drink a lot of beer, which should be quite evident in this particular episode because we're about 6 deep into this thing today.
Russ, I think if you can still call yourself out for it, you're still doing okay.
Okay. If I start talking to you like this, you know,
right,
I'm in
something's
serious
gone
trouble.
wrong.
Yeah. So what do we have here, John?
I met this guy once in Myrtle Beach. I was just wandering around a bar by myself in Myrtle Beach, and I met this guy, and
Two drunks walk into a bar.
He decided to start talking to me. It's wonder of wonders, I guess. And he told me you can always make it home safe if you have two certs. One to put in your mouth and one to wear in your right eye like a monocle.
I get it. I get it.
So we are drinking a big beer this time. We're drinking a High-Wire Imperial Stout, the foundation of their 10W-40 series. So we've already done a couple of the 10W-40 variants.
If you look back
at a handful.
If you look back at the stouts playlist, we've got at least 3, I think, in there.
But this is the base beer for the 10W-40 series, which is just straight up 10W-40 Imperial Stout. I don't know that I've actually had this beer before. If I have, it was a couple years ago, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years ago now, because 3 or 4 years ago was the start of COVID, and so that was only an instant ago in,
right.
world time.
Yeah.
So it's been some time, and High-Wire's made these really good big beers for a long time. I was fortunate enough to make it up there pretty early on, in a couple of months of their opening the tap room on South Slope, the original one, and they make a beer called Bed and Ales Brown, which I still think is probably one of the best.
It's on the menu behind us.
It is.
Yes, it is.
One of the best browns made in the South, for sure.
Which I think we might have reviewed at some.
I think we have, but I won't swear to that one on camera because we didn't check. But the day I happened in, they had a double IPA, a big 8.5%er, that they had brewed with their entire year's supply of Galaxy, Motueka, and El Dorado hops, I think, at the time, when I think all of those were fairly scarce.
Because you only get so many of those
a
year. You get an allotment, a rationing.
Yeah.
A rationing.
So they had this big IPA with 3 big hops in it, and I just flat fell in love with it. And in fact, when I had that little run of writing in magazines, back when I had my beer store open, I had a list of my very first list of the top 10 beers of the South had that beer in it, and they had just opened up. So people got mad at me for it because they couldn't get it. But if I've learned anything,
Russ, pox on you.
If I've learned anything, is that if you do something and let other people see it, they're not going to like it.
Exactly. You can't please all the people all the time.
Right.
We only have to worry about 3 that actually watch this. So
I was on another rabbit trail listening to a PJ O'Rourke book on the way over today, and at the start of it,
and I just want to mention, John was remarkably on time today. That never happens. The talent never gets here on time. Never happens.
So
go ahead.
He leads off talking about how some of these stories are repeats from other books that he's written. He's like, my faithful readers will know, and I would like to heartily thank you both.
Yes.
And so we have a similar problem with PJ O'Rourke.
Yeah, we do.
Anyway,
we preach to a very small congregation.
Right, but they're faithful.
They're faithful, and
if we could ever turn them into proselytizers, we might have something on our hands.
Or get them to all send us $1,000.
Right? Yeah. Right. Seriously. So if you're watching, now that we've covered it,
you know what? That would only make my taxes more difficult to file. So don't even bother.
Please don't send us any money.
Yeah, don't send us a red nickel, because that would just be one other thing that complicates my tax return.
All right, let's get back to beer.
Okay.
I think that's probably enough rabbit trails for the nonce.
Yes.
So straight up Imperial Stout that this is a big 8.5. I've forgotten now that I've gotten this far into my day. I think it's 8 I think it was straight up 8.5, but Russ will correct me on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, we'll put it up. Throw it up there if he's
and
wrong.
It's fun for me to get down and be able to taste the base beer that's used to create all those other different flavors, because they'll do German chocolate cake, or they'll do chocolate covered cherries, or
creme brulee was one of my favorites.
Yeah,
Mexican something or other.
I think they did some sort of a take on that mole lager. Listen to me. I could go on. So all of that said, I'm very excited to try this just very traditional Imperial Stout and see what Highwire is able to do with it, because I have faith that they've made good beer.
Asheville, correct?
Asheville, North Carolina.
Text Miss Lily.
Here's to it. Oh my God, the nose on that is.
See, I'm not getting anything off the nose.
Oh, are you kidding me? I am getting these big.
I'm getting some
fresh
chocolate.
Coffee flavors and some chocolate and cocoa.
I'm getting
not much in the way of those big fruit fermentation flavors at all. I'm getting a ton of roast out of that.
I just have a bad smeller. I'm getting a little.
I'm going to take a sip of this, and then I'm going to address that, because I don't think Russ is right. Oh, there is some fermentation, some of that dates and raisins thing, right as soon as it hits my palate. It's very quick. And then it drops into that big roast that's making my mouth water because it's so dry. But then it falls off. I'm left with a little bit of like coffee grounds bitterness. It's like the way coffee grounds smell is the way it feels on my tongue on the back end.
Ditto. I love contributing to these things.
Yeah.
I've left
there
them
are
speechless.
things I'm trying to wrap my head around what I'm going to try and say, which is always an adventure for me. There are things that everyone's palate and nose is better at than other things. For instance, I tend to taste things more sweet than other people tend to taste things. And I have a hard time coming up with certain aromas on my nose. They just don't register as well. The oxidation is one of the things that if it's just, most people will pick up, most people who would ever try, would pick up oxidation flavors as this kind of papery, wet cardboard thing, this sort of musty thing that I just never ever smell it. My nose does not pick it up. But I can pick up when oxidation starts to add in those sherry flavors and those, the sort of vinegary fruit side of the oxidation flavors blast out on my nose. So just, there are certain things, be aware, there are certain things that your nose is going to be better at smelling than others. And that's just the way it's going to be. And I say that for Russ's benefit and for yours. You're welcome.
I guess I'm not like nose aroma challenged. I guess I'm not aroma challenged.
Right.
I kind of am, because I don't smell, my mustache could be on fire and I don't know that I would pick that up.
Well, that makes me wonder why you don't like those big peaty scotches as much. Or maybe you don't like them because they really do register, and that's one of the only ways that you register that aroma.
Could be. Peaty scotches,
I love them. Oh.
I'm not down with them.
I love them. I love those big, dirty scotches, the big Islay scotches.
Pick one and I'll
that's why
fetch a bottle of it and we'll do a
That's
tasting.
why we did Lafroig, like over at Burrow when we did Lafroig, and that's why I choose Lafroig when I'm at your house from time to time, because I actually like it.
I do have Lafroig at my house. I've got about 3 or 4 single malts because I have people who come over who like single malts, and I've got, I don't know, a half a dozen Irish, because I like Irish. I just don't, that's just not something I ever really think of drinking at my house, because I've got, I don't know,
Russ has
120
an extensive
bourbons.
selection of
Bourbons and ryes, and so I don't think about that. I've got, I don't know, probably 8 or 10 tequilas. I do occasionally have a sip of tequila because I like it a lot, but yeah, scotches I don't typically drink on my own. If I'm out somewhere or if I'm at somebody's house and they say, "Hey, here, I got this." My fraternity brother in Knoxville is a kind of a Scotch. He's a Scotch and tequila drinker. He's migrated from bourbon to Scotch and now to tequila. But he's still got a pretty good selection of Scotch. And I'll have a sip or 2 of that with him. I don't hate it. I don't like peaty scotches, and I'm fine with it, but I'm just one guy. I've only got so much time, and I can't drink all this stuff. So,
except on days like today.
Except on days like today.
Yeah.
But these are primarily beer days.
Yeah.
We always do a couple of liquors, Scotch or bourbon or tequila. But
Just to keep it fresh.
just to keep us on our toes. But
Yeah.
anything else, John?
No.
Okay.
We've done more than enough damage here.
I think so. So damn lucky. See you next time.